How's it going, everybody, and welcome back to the Fourth and Long podcast with host Alec Pecano. Today's show, we will be going over my top 20 college football head coaches for the 2024 season, my top 10 most fun teams to watch for the 2024 season, as well as my top 5 surprising teams, and a little bit more. But let's get started with my top 20 head coaches. At number 20, I've got Virginia Tech head coach Brent Pry. Now, I could have had him higher on the list, but I think it's only fair to have him. He is a top 20 head coach in my book. He took Virginia Tech to a bowl game last year, and I think he's going to do the same thing this year. When I do my ACC predictions, next week on Monday, you might see Virginia Tech in a certain spot in the ACC. That's a little teaser to a video next week. At number 19 is another ACC head coach. It is Syracuse's Fran Brown, the former Georgia defensive backs coach. He is now going into his first season as the head coach at Syracuse. I really like what Fran Brown did in the transfer portal, getting Kyle McCord and getting a bunch of other guys to go transfer to Syracuse so they could compete in year one and not have to go through a rebuild. My number 18 head coach, and this might be a cause for a little bit of debate in the comment section down below, but I welcome y'all's opinions in the comments section of this video and all my videos. My number 18 head coach for the 2024 college football season is Colorado's Deion Sanders. Now, in prime time, Deion, you got a mixed bag last year. They started off really well. Then they ended the season terribly. Went 4-8. Look what Deion did in the offseason. Got a lot of guys to transfer in. They did lose a couple. They lost Autumn McCaskill. They lost Dylan Edwards. But they revamped the offensive line, which that was a big thing that hurt them last year, was the offensive line. They redid that. They redid the defense. I think Colorado and Deion is a top 20 head coach for me. He's at number 18. At number 17 is a guy. He's an SEC head coach. His dad used to be the coach of Virginia Tech. Shane Beamer. I think with Beamer, I know when I did my SEC stuff early on in the offseason, I had lower expectations for him and I had him on the hot seat. I don't think he's on the hot seat anymore. I've watched tape on Lenore Sellers. I think South Carolina is actually going to be good this year. And I don't think Shane Beamer is going to lose his job. My number 16 head coach is from the G5. It is Eastern Michigan's Chris Creighton. I like what Creighton's built at Eastern Michigan, and I think they're really close to being really, really competitive in the MAC. They did get a 4-star linebacker to commit in this recruiting cycle. I am not going to say the name. I'm just going to call him Noah. If you want to look up his last name, you can. I'm not going to say it because it contains a word that I don't per se like using online. My number 15 head coach is Oklahoma's Brent Venables. This used to be the defensive coordinator at Clemson. Now he's the head coach for Oklahoma, and they're going into their first year in the SEC. I think they're going to do good. I don't think they're winning the SEC, though. But I like Brent Venables. Unless something happens where Oklahoma just has a horrible year and he ends up being on the hot seat, I don't think he will be. I think that Brent Venables and Oklahoma will have a decent year, their first year in the SEC. My number 14 head coach, and I need to take a step back on this one because I said he was on the hot seat going into last season, and his team had a really good year. Joey McGuire, Texas Tech. I was way off with my take on Texas Tech last year. I think Joey McGuire is a really good head coach. And I'm sorry to the Texas Tech fans that wanted to get on me last year when I said he was on the hot seat. He is way off the hot seat now. He comes in at number 14 on my top 20 head coaches. At number 13 is another G5 head coach, and it is Chuck Martin, Miami of Ohio. Consistency is the name of the game here with Chuck Martin. He has found a way to get Miami of Ohio to a bowl game three of the last 4 years. And he did it last year without his starting quarterback, Brett Gabbert, who got hurt halfway through the regular season. And they had to go to the backup, Avian Smith, who transferred out now because Brett Gabbert's coming back for another season. But I think that Miami, Ohio, I think Chuck Martin's going to be one of the top. He's number 13 on my board, but in my list. But I think there's other people that probably have him top 15, top 20, top 30 maybe. My number 12 head coach. And this is another guy that was on the fence for me of being on the hot seat again this year. Neil Brown, West Virginia. I had zero expectations for Neil Brown in West Virginia last year, and they had a great season. Can they do it again? I think they can. He comes in at number 12. At number 11 for me is South Florida head coach Alex Golesh. And this might be a little biased for having him this high, but hear me out. Non-biased. South Florida, this is the best head coach they've had since Willie Taggart. I'm not counting Charlie Strong. Charlie Strong only lasted 2 years, and then they got rid of him. Willie Taggart was, before Golesh, Willie Taggart was the best head coach South Florida had. Now, if you look at Golesh, what did he do in year one? He took South Florida to a bowl game, and I think if they would have won more games, they would have won the American. I think they might win the American this year. That's a little teaser again to a video down the road. But number 10, now we get into my top 10. A little controversial maybe because there's a coach missing here because he's going into his first year at the University of Michigan as head coach. And I'll explain why he is not on the list once I get past number 1. But the number 10 head coach going into the 2024 season for me is Texas's Steve Sarkisian. Look what Sarkisian's done the last 2 years with Texas. Everybody was clowning on Texas because they're like, oh, when they upset somebody, they're like, oh, Texas is back, folks. I really think Texas is actually back. And I think they will make the playoff this year. And they might win the SEC. Might. I will tell you who my SEC pick is next week when I do my SEC conference preview. My number 9 head coach for the 2024 season is Mack Brown, North Carolina. Yeah, this is going to be a testament to how good Mack Brown is as a coach going into this year because Drake May's gone. This is the post-Drake May era at North Carolina. And I think Mack Brown has proven that he can do it with anybody at quarterback. My number 8 head coach. This guy was just the head coach at Duke last year before coming back to this school. It is Texas A&M's Mike Elko. Elko was a really good defensive coordinator for A&M, and he parlayed that into a job as the head coach at Duke. Look what he did at Duke the last couple of years, bringing him back to relevance in football. I think he's going to help A&M in its first year under him, and I think A&M is going to be a lot better than people think this year. That is why Mike Elko is number 8 on my list for head coaches going into the 2024 season. Number 7 is an American Athletic Conference head coach. It is Jeff Traylor from UTSA. Consistency is key here. They did lose some guys, but they've also kept a lot of their guys around. And I think Jeff Traylor and UTSA are going to be one of the better teams in the American. My number 6 head coach, and this guy was just a head coach last year at Oregon State, and he parlayed that into a bigger job going to the Big Ten and taking over Michigan State. It is Jonathan Smith. Now, Michigan State fans, hear me out. This might take a little bit of time, but I think you're going to like the results that you see from Jonathan Smith. Give him 2 or 3 years to get his recruits in there. Not the guys that are left over from Mel Tucker. My number 5 head coach is Missouri's Eli Drinkwitz. And he was another one that I had on the hot seat going into the 2023 season. And I bet some Missouri fans kept receipts on that. And they're probably about to hit me in the comment section with a dose of reality and say, oh, you were wrong on putting Eli Drinkwitz on the hot seat last year. And yes, I was, because I was doubting Missouri. I didn't think Missouri was going to win a lot of games last year. And they did. And they beat Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl, in their bowl game. But, and I quote, Eli Drinkwitz is a top 5 head coach for me. At number 4, I have Kalen DeBoer of Alabama now. I almost caught myself and said he was still at Washington. He is not at Washington anymore. He is now at Alabama. I think Alabama's still going to be, I know they lost Saban. I think Alabama's going to be just fine with DeBoer. And they might, and I quote, might make the playoff this year. I know there's people saying they're a playoff lock. I don't see it. Look at their schedule. They have a tough schedule this year. My number 3 head coach is another guy in the SEC. And some people want to call him the transfer portal king this year. That is Lane Kiffin. They did lose a couple of guys. They lost Quinshon Judkins, and I think they lost 1 or 2 wide receivers. But they reloaded in the transfer portal. And I think Ole Miss is going to be one of the better teams in the SEC. And they might compete for a playoff spot. Number 2 is Ryan Day, Ohio State. Now, I know what some people are going to say. Ryan Day should not even sniff the top 2 of head coaches for 2024 because he can't beat Michigan. I think that's going to change this year. If you look what Ohio State's done in the portal, they pulled in a lot of good guys in the portal. Scott McLaughlin from Alabama. Caleb Downs, Alabama. Quinshon Judkins, Alabama. Julian Sayin. Quinshon Judkins, Ole Miss. Sorry about that little mistake. Julian Sayin, Alabama. Noah Rogers was going to transfer, and I believe he came back. No, it was either Noah or Bryson Rogers. One of them is at North Carolina State. The other one decided to stay at Ohio State. And then, not to mention, you get back Tyleik Williams on defense, JT Tuimoloau, Denzel Burke, CJ Hicks, and that's and you're still loaded at wide receiver. You got Carnell Tate, you've got Brandon Ennis, you've got Jeremiah Smith, you've got Emeka Egbuka. At tight end, you've got G. Scott, you've got a transfer, you've got Jelani Thurston, a freshman. And then the only question I have about Ohio State is their offensive line. Other than McLaughlin, you've got a couple guys that are playing different positions this year. And then, of course, he had to be number one. Georgia head coach Kirby Smart. The guy knows how to recruit. I know I hate on Georgia a lot, but I got to give them their flowers and cookies where it's due. And that is Kirby Smart is a really, really good head coach. Now, my honorable mentions. Just missing out on the cut for making my top 20 for head coaches was Kirk Ferentz of Iowa. I like Kirk Ferentz, but we need to see how their offense is going to be without Brian Ferentz, Kirk's son, at number and Kirk Ferentz came out at 21. At 23, which means he just missed out by 3 spots, it was Luke Fickell of Wisconsin. And I think Fickell and Wisconsin are going to be good this year. I'm just a little skeptical on their quarterback. They've gone through the transfer portal again to get a quarterback. And let's see how this one winds up. If he winds up better than the one last year in Tanner Mordecai, I'll give him, I will admittedly say I'm sorry for hating on Wisconsin. And another group of 5 guy, it is G.J. Kinney. He just missed out by 4 spots. Texas State. They reloaded in the portal. They didn't lose a lot, but they brought in the reigning Sun Belt Player of the Year in Jordan McLeod. And you might hear me talk about Texas State in a second. Here are my top 10 most fun teams to watch for the 2024 college football season. At number 10 is USC. And yeah, I know what you're going to say. Why are they even sniffing the list? They don't deserve it. For me, they do, and it's going to be a Lincoln Riley offense. Miller Moss might be the real deal. And I think if he is, people need to take USC seriously. And they made a good hire on the defensive side of the ball. I think USC's defense might be better than last year. At number 9, and not to mention, back to USC for a second, they are now in the Big Ten. Now we get to my number 9 team. It's TCU. People seem to forget that TCU just 2 years ago was in the playoff and almost won the national championship. They were a game away from going to the national championship, but they got destroyed by Michigan. I think TCU is going to be really good this year if their quarterback, Josh Herbert, can just cut down on the turnovers. If he cuts down on the turnovers, I think TCU is going to be more under the bar. Of course, their offense is always good, but I think what you need to see here from TCU is, can they run the ball? If they can run the ball, I think they will be just fine. My number 8 most fun team to watch for the 2024 college football season is LSU. And you may say, why is LSU on here? They're always good. Let's see how good they're going to be this year without Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas. I'm intrigued by Garrett Nussmeier and the group of receivers he's got. I think LSU is going to be one of the better teams in the SEC. My number 7 most fun team to watch for 2024 is North Texas, the Mean Green. I think North Texas is going to be a lot better this year than they were last year. And I think they're going to have a high-powered offense. They were not in my top 20 for offenses, but I still think they're going to be one of the better offenses in the group of 5. My number 6 most fun team to watch for 2024 is UCF. I think they upgraded a quarterback. I liked John Rice Plumlee, but I think there was still a little bit to be desired with Rice Plumlee as the quarterback at UCF. I like KJ Jefferson. I think he got put in a bad spot at Arkansas because they went through offensive coordinators left and right, and then they brought in Bobby Petrino, and Bobby Petrino obviously wanted his own quarterback there. He didn't want KJ Jefferson, and I think this is a good decision for Jefferson to go to UCF and improve his draft stock a little bit. But I like the offense that UCF's going to run. Gus Malzahn is still the head coach there. He did not take a bigger job. Number 5 for me, I just mentioned their head coach. It is Texas State. They brought in the reigning Sun Belt Offensive Player of the Year and Jordan McLeod. And I think Texas State is going to be one of the better teams in the Sun Belt on offense. And that's not debatable at all. Number 4 is a team that's a sleeper for me in the ACC. And it's not Virginia Tech. It is Georgia Tech, led by Brent Key. And I think Georgia Tech, they have the schedule. Could they win the ACC? Maybe. I don't think it happens. And again, you will see where I have them in the ACC next week on Monday. My number 3 most fun team to watch in 2023, 2024, 2025 college football season is Oregon. Dylan Gabriel, Tez Johnson, and Dan Lanning. Dan Lanning knows how to recruit. He's another guy that doesn't get enough credit for how good his recruiting is. At number 2. Number 2 and number 1 are both SEC schools. Number 2 is Ole Miss. And I think Ole Miss is another team that's going to be really fun to watch in 2024, even without Quinshon Judkins. I think Jackson Dart's going to light it up. And I think their running game is going to be good too. At number 1 is Missouri. Mizzou, I underrated them last year, like I said earlier when I was talking about Drinkwitz. I'm not doing that this year. I think they're going to be a fun team to watch. They got Brady Cook back. Luther Burton's coming back. That defense looks ferocious. It looks a lot better than last year. And I think Missouri's a sleeper dark horse to make the playoff, maybe. Because you don't have to go undefeated. This is the first year of the 12-team playoff. So that means you can have 2 or 3 losses and still make the playoff. And now to my top 5 surprising teams for the 2024 college football season. And you might see another team on here from the American that I talked about a minute ago. But at number 5 is a Big Ten school, Michigan State. I know people are saying that Michigan State's not going to be good year one under Jonathan Smith. I say otherwise. I think Michigan State's going to outdo their win total, which, again, you will see in my preview videos. I will also be doing some of them. You will be getting record predictions as well, like the Big Ten. You'll get where I have all the teams, and then you'll get their record prediction as well as my analysis on their schedule. My number 4 surprising team for me is going to be North Texas. I just talked about them in the previous segment on top 10 fun teams to watch. I think they're going to surprise some people this year with how they play on offense, how they play on defense. I think they're going to be a surprise team and outdo their win total by maybe 2 or 3 wins. My number 3 team, surprise team for the 2024 season is a Big Ten school again, and it is Indiana. I think Indiana under Kirk Cignetti in year 1 might be better than people think. Might being the key word. Cignetti, look what he did at James Madison. Took them to a bowl game. I know they got beat really bad in their bowl game. But I think that Indiana's going to outdo. They're going to be better than some analysts think. At number 2 for me is Tulsa. Year 2 under Kevin Wilson, I think Tulsa's going to improve a tad bit and be better. And I think they're going to compete this year in the AAC. Now that it's wide open, because you don't got SMU, you don't got Cincinnati, you don't got UCF in there anymore. Those 3 teams gone, and Houston, so 4. All 4 of the big boys are gone now in the AAC. And my number 1 surprise team for the 2024 college football season is Nebraska. Everything is set up for Matt Rhule to have a good year in year 2. And I think, mark my words and come back to this video, I'm going to say this right now. I think Dylan Raiola makes an immediate impact in Lincoln, Nebraska this year. He might start week 1. I don't know. If he does, I'll take the cake for calling it, but who knows? Little programming note though. September 5th podcast programming note. It's official, September 5th through the 9th. I will be taking a 4th and Long podcast to Blacksburg, Virginia with me, and we will be streaming all four days I'm in Blacksburg. Because that Monday I come back. So there will be no 4th and Long podcast on September 9th. September 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. We will have podcasts every day from the campus of Virginia Tech. I don't know where, but we will have podcast episodes from there. But that's going to wrap up today's podcast episode. I will see you back here. I believe it's on Sunday with another. I think we might also have a podcast episode tomorrow as well. But whatever the next podcast episode is, whether it's tomorrow or Sunday, I think we got a couple on Sunday and one tomorrow maybe. I will see y'all. When I say y'all, please leave a thumbs up on the video. Please comment down below if I missed any head coaches on my list. And remember to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. And if you're interested, purchase a membership as well. But that's going to wrap up today's video. Have a wonderful rest of your Friday.